Thank you, Chantal, for the invitation, Voices of Faith. I come from Peru, from Lima. I come from a very Catholic family, middle-class, normal family in Peru. My school was run by nuns, and since I was a little kid, I felt strongly the call from God. You know, in Peru, it's a very poor place, so I felt that I had to do something because I felt the urgency to do something for the world. So when I was 15 years old, I came across Sodalicio, a very conservative Catholic movement in Peru that was catching the attention of Lima's high and middle class young people. My brother and my friends were participating in different activities, so I joined them. Sodalicio is a lay movement with a few priests, but is led by consecrated laymen from different countries. The Peruvian Luis Fernando Figari founded it in 1971. When I joined in 1983, there were no consecrated women, just men. Herman Doig was the second one. He was not the founder, he was the vicar, became my spiritual director. I was 15 years old. After a few months of gaining my trust, he asked me and some young men to bring our sports gear to study some yoga and spiritual exercises. After some group sessions, he moved into personal sessions, one-on-one, just him and me. He taught me these special exercises that he said would help me to develop self-mastery and to control my own sexuality. I have to say that in the 80s in Peru, it was a very conservative and I was a very protective girl. So I was very naive. I was 15 years old, but I had no sexual experience at all. I had never a boyfriend till then. And I didn't understand what he was doing. He was abusing me, and in that moment, he was just doing these spiritual exercises to control myself. This gradually became more intimate and more controlling. I told no one about this because I had no words to describe it. I couldn't. Of course, I felt also guilty. After some sessions, I remember that I just go back home crying, feeling guilty and disorientated. He was spiritual director. He was a consecrating man, the vicar, the superior. How could I think wrong? He was saying that I will control my own sexuality. So I blamed myself. After months, I became ill. And I asked him to stop because I knew that something was not right. He assured me that he would never do it again. And because of my protest, he said that he would change. I believed him. And I left the event in the past, but its consequences never left me. I never spoke about this experience. I considered that I was the problem, and I had no label to describe what happened. It was not a sexual or affectionate relationship. It was just something that it was wrong and dirty. When I was 18 years old, 5 friends and I decided to consecrate our lives, and so we began the feminine branch of Sodalicio. We found a little house in a very poor area of Lima, near the airport, and we were very happy with the project, giving our lives to God, helping people, and working for the kingdom of God. During those first years, the founder never visited us. We were treated terrible by the male community. The founder was a misogynist, and he continuously said to us that we were less intelligent, that we were so emotional, and that we have to imitate them and to be more masculine. And we thought that that was the right thing to do, that we were not so good as the male ones. Time passed, and many girls joined us, and I became the superior of the community. And when the founder saw that we were growing and growing, he decided to get involved in our daily lives and I had to obey him and give account of everything we did. Little by little, of course, I began growing and maturing, but little by little, I was always a rebel, I became rebel, very rebel, and critical of how women were treated in the community. But I also was very idealistic and naive. I said, I will change the founder. And I began complaining more and more to the leaders of the male branch about our position. We never had true leadership in the movement. We were treated like second-class citizens, and we worked on their projects and their schools without receiving the economic benefits that they did. So, because I became a very rebellious voice in Sodalicio, the founder and the vicar, the one who abused me, decided to move me out from Lima and send me to create and live to be the superior, the general superior, and to come to Rome to open the community. Rome was the beginning of my liberation. Rome opened my horizons, and I became even more conscious of the misogynist culture within Sodalicio. I concluded that the feminine branch had to find its independence. And I began to encourage the formation of female communities in areas where there were no male communities. Of course, they were very angry with me because of that. But in 2002, the general vicar, Germán Doig, the one who mistreated me, died. He had a great reputation for holiness within the community of Sodalicio. When I was here in Rome, I was already like 40 years old, and in this church, besides here in San Agostino, a friend of mine, a priest, an Augustinian priest, very nice man, he asked me, why are you so defensive with men? Did someone hurt you? His kindness and perception lifted the veil of silence and for the first time enabled me to tell my story. When I told him what I experienced when I was a very little girl, a young girl, he told me, that's sexual abuse. What you experienced, you was abused. For the first time, I realized that I was a victim, and I was able to give the correct words to describe what had been done to me. I began a long healing path, healing my feelings of betrayal, of low esteem, and guilt. Soon after this, because of the vicar died, the founder asked me help in the cause of beatification of Germán Doig. But I still had in the memory what happened to me when I was an adolescent. And this, of course, generated me questions about his sanctity. But at the same time, all the community, all the people, 10,000 people, were saying that he was a saint. So I went to an old Jesuit priest in Jesu, and he told me in confession that it could be that Germán Doig had changed and that I had to find out if it was true or not. So I started helping in the process of beatification. But in 2006, a friend of mine came to me and told me that she discovered that there was another victim of Germán Doig after me. So in that moment, I understood this guy never changed. He continued abusing. And with this friend, we discovered another victim. So another victim that abused him till he's dead. So he was not a saint, he was a serial perpetrator. We were shocked, you can imagine. How can we do a guy that is in the process of beatification? I have to help in that process. And I discovered that he abused many people. He didn't rape me, but he raped other people. So I said, okay, we have to stop this cause, and I have to talk to the founder. And we have to stop this. So we decided, with my friend and I, we decided that I would be the one who will face the founder. But we were also doubting, is the founder involved? We were already being a little bit dubious because he was a vicar, very close friend. So I went to the founder. And I went to the founder in 2008 because it took us 2 years to find out more victims. So when we had the proofs and we have the testimonies that he was an abuser, I went here in Rome for a meeting with the founder. And I told him my story, and I told him that there were others. And he said, "You are a liar. You are organizing a plot against Sodalicio. You are a rebel, and what happened to you is nothing. And I am sure that you seduced him. And it doesn't matter, because we need a saint." I just said to him, and he added, "This conversation has not existed. Don't speak, you are forbidden to speak to anyone." I replied that he will never have the support of the feminine branch, that we will never build a community in a lie, and I said, "Don't count on us. I will not remain silent." Of course, in that moment, and he told me, when I will die, people will say that also I am a perpetrator. When he said that, I said to him, when I die, no one will say that I am a perpetrator. They would say, perfect, oh, this Rocio was so vain and so, has a strong character, and sometimes bossy. But no one will say that I am an abuser. So he told me yes, and he told me 2 last names. These 2 people would say that of me. I didn't know those guys. In that moment, I said, oh my goodness, he is the one who began everything. Because he has told me 2 names and he's not understanding what he's saying. He's revealing, because he became crazy, and he was just walking around the room like crazy, because I discovered him. So I said, oh my God, the founder is also a perpetrator. And I was sure that, of course, he abused the vicar, because there were like 15 years of difference, or 20. I was so shocked that the next day, I couldn't get up from my bed. I got ill, absolutely depressed. I didn't know what to do. I just couldn't really get up. So, after some months, of course, the attitude of the founder after that day changed 180 degrees. And he was a friendly guy. He was against me. He became aggressive, and he tried to do everything to destroy my reputation. But as I was not an abuser, he began saying, she is so ill that no one can call her. No one. So he began isolating me in that way that I could not talk and say what I discovered. I got ill, and I got a tumor. And I think, of course, it was because of the shock that I suffered. And I was very ill, and here in Rome, sometimes the doctors were not so good, couldn't find a tumor. But I felt bad, I'm not right. And the founder said, and my sister said, come to Lima with our doctors, and you will be better. And perhaps they will find what you have. And the founder said, no, you will not come to Lima. You are forbidden to come here, because he was afraid again that I will talk. So in that moment, I have not the strength to fight against him, and I said, okay. So I remember I had to go to Milan, to a hospital by myself, and of course, they discovered a tumor. I had a surgery. I had to recover from the surgery. So when I recovered myself, I said, okay, let's begin. So I called in that moment, we began investigating more. And I called the vicar, and I said to him, you have, the new vicar, not the other vicar died, you have to come to Rome tomorrow, not in 1 week, tomorrow. So he came. He knew already that there was a victim, because a victim told him, and I said, you have to do 2 things. First, you have to stop that beatification cause. Second, you have to kick out the founder. And he cannot be a superior, because he's covering up, and third, no, I said 3 things. Third, you have to investigate him, because I am not so sure who is this guy. They did the two first things. So when I got back to Lima, they stopped the cause of beatification, saying in the news that it was because Germán Doig didn't reach the virtues of sanctity. Nothing else, of course. And the founder resigned as superior, saying because he was ill, so he could not be superior anymore. But I came to Lima and I said, listen, you have not done the third thing, to investigate the founder. They thought that I will stay quiet, no, because already they have stopped the cause, he's not anymore the superior. I said, no, you have to investigate. They said, no, the founder is innocent. He said he didn't do anything. He didn't know anything. And I said, okay, they didn't want to do it. So I said, okay, I will begin an investigation. And I began an internal investigation. And I remember the last names that the founder gave me. So I tracked these people. And I discovered victims from the founder. And I discovered, like different victims. And they told me their stories, and I couldn't believe it. The founder, the superior. But not only that, we discovered that there were more perpetrators. In total, we discovered 4 perpetrators, and all of them were the leaders of the community. So I said, I tried everything, all the channels. In that moment, I was working at the Vatican. I was the woman in charge of the office for women. And of course, the founder was absolutely worried that I work in the Vatican and I could talk. And he obliged me and he said, you have to resign because you are too ill. And I said, look, the cardinal has told me just to recover from my operation. Lots of women have this surgery, so I will be all right afterwards. But of course, he was scared as hell because he was scared what I was going to say. But so I had to write the letter resigning in the Council for the Laity, and I said, well, the founder has told me that I have to resign because I am ill. Well, he says that I am ill, but I don't feel ill, no? So I give this letter to the cardinal. It's in the archives of the Vatican. And I went to the cardinal, and I told him the story. And I told him what happened to me. I told him who was the founder. And I was hoping that the authority, a cardinal, will support me, will do something. And this cardinal said to me, Rocio, and he cared about me. He loved me, really. He said to me, Rocio, you have 2 possibilities. Or you leave the community, or you become a silent soldier. I saw him say, what? So he didn't do anything. Of course, why the cover-up? Because those cardinals were the ones who were supporting these new movements and approving these new movements because they brought money, they brought people, numbers, image. That's why he didn't do anything. And the next time when I had the news that I had victims from the founder, I called him. And he said to me, Rocio, now this conversation is too compromising, so I cannot talk to you anymore. I said, okay. I knew that I would never have the support of the Vatican. So what I did, I didn't have the support of my community at all. The women were very scared. They believed me, but they didn't want to do anything. They were saying, no, we have to wait till the church do something. My goodness, you will well see the parousia. So I said, no. I said, no. Okay, I said. So I helped the victims from the different perpetrators to write their accusations, their stories, and I presented and I said, okay, let's send it to all the offices of the different offices of the Vatican. So we sent to Doctrine of the Faith, to Secretary of State. I sent it to all of them, the different denounces of all of the different accusations. Not an answer. We presented all the accusations in the court of Lima. Not an answer. So when I finished it, I said, this will not change. and the community didn't want to investigate the founder. Everything was like nothing happened. So I decided, of course, to leave. And I left the community in 2011. In 2015, a friend of mine who was a former sodalite wrote a book because he was helping me in the investigation. And he wrote a book interviewing victims of sodalicio. Just when the book, because of the book, and of course it created a huge impact in the society of Peru, like the legionarios in Mexico or the Caradim in Chile, just because of the book, then the church, after years and years and years, they reacted. And sodalicio reacted, because till then sodalicio was not doing anything. So now there was an investigation. Sodalicio has recognized 77 victims. 77 victims, and they have put aside $4 million for reparations. But of course, the punishment from the Congregation for Religious to the founder was live a life of prayer. So he is in Rome here, living a life of prayer. And he lives here in Rome with a community of other sodalites that have to take care of him. And because of the pressure, and because we have continued doing pressure, and because of what happened in Chile, that we were saying is not enough what you have done to the Pope. The Pope has said, and of course when the Pope was coming from Peru, the journalists asked him, what's going on with Figari? What are you going to do with Figari? Because the punishment was so, and Figari now has preventive jail in Peru. So if Figari comes back to Peru, he possibly be in jail, because he has already preventive jail. But he appealed to Rome, and now the Pope has said lately that he will give the real punishment, because the punishment was a laugh, no? It was a joke, it's not real. So that's the story. I left the community, now I am happily married. I married a New Zealand, that's why I'm in the other part of the world. And happily, I am a theologian, and I teach in Auckland as a lecturer of systematic theology, but also I work on research about the theological and pastoral responses to the sexual abuse crisis. And I am convinced that the victims themselves are the prophetic voices that will help in the renewal of the church. One of the lessons that I have learned in all my story is that it's very difficult to be a victim and be a woman. Because the strange thing is that machismo exists also within the crisis of sexual abuse. Because if it is an abuse of an adult man against a young girl, they don't call it sexual abuse. She seduced him. They were lovers, you know? Because they don't understand what is sexual abuse. It's an abuse of power. Women are constantly re-victimized. Sexual abuse is not about gender, as Chetina said it very well. We are breaking the silence, and breaking the silence creates a culture in which the darkness can be revealed through the light of the truth. When our words are full of truth, they are able to destroy the lies of the powerful. We need women of the word, we need women of truth, and we need to break the silence. Thank you.